Sometimes you have to do that because the easy challenge is one you'll get lazy with. The big challenge gets you hungry.
Oh, how the tables turn.
That's a heavy topic.
And we need to focus on that. If not for yourself, then, do it for your children.
Black book is in the
Hey, Black book.
Men Talk, Black Book. What is up, everybody? It's Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe show, the home of Epic Conversations. And I'm the host of Epic Conversations, 2018 Innovation Award winner, 2020 Best Podcast News Award winner given out by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association. I also co-host and co-produce the only online show in the world for dads, fathers, and male caregivers that's sponsored by Dubman Plus Care. And being part of that movement, we've reached out directly and indirectly to over 400,000 dads, fathers, and male caregivers around the world. And as always, I like to say, you're blessed, highly favored, a magnet for miracles, and a solution for someone's problem. Welcome to Black Men Can Talk, a show where Black Canadian men come together to have real, unfiltered conversations about life, culture, and community. And I'm joined by my regular co-hosts, one of my regular co-hosts, Kofi Sadat, and also joined by a gentleman who wants to be part of this. He's barging the door.
He's a part of it.
And Jonathan Shaw. So what's going on, family?
Welcome to Black History Month 2026.
Yes, I was going to say that, but I know you'd beat me.
Sorry, man.
That's all right.
100 years. 30 years in Canada, 100 years in the United States.
Bam, bam.
Black History Month.
Yeah,
Well, interesting. Now that we could go into that for the rest of the conversation, but I'm sure we'll touch base on it sometime this month. But I just think, I don't want to go down because if we go down that slope, it's gonna just dominate maybe we'll hit that for the next show. Kofi Sadat was out today with his beautiful partner, eating some food.
That's it. Eating some good food, some real food from the real jerk, right? So it was all good. Again, as I said, celebrating African Heritage Month, and also, making sure we keep the dollars in our community, which is equally as important, right? So it was good to get out there and vibe. I hadn't been there for a minute, right? So kind of hail up the folks that were there, and they put on a Caribbean brunch today. Yeah, so I think
every Sunday, or was it just today?
Well, I think they said they're going to try to run it like once a month to start, and maybe every first Sunday. So yeah, come check it out, man. It's in the East York location.
Yeah, and this is another conversation for another time, but I have a really good relationship with Roger Dundas of BuyBlacks.com, and every year BuyBlacks.com puts on Black Restaurant Week for Black. But one of the things that he is telling me is there are more and more and more Black restaurants closing.
Yeah. Interesting you mentioned that, because I was reading the news the other day, and this is just Canada-wide, saying about 40% of the businesses are going to close. Restaurants here.
Yep. Yeah, Black restaurants are closing. Like him and I have regular conversation. Every time I speak, there's another restaurant that's closing. Black-owned restaurant, whether it's here, across the country, like one of his favorite restaurants in Vancouver, Calabash, I think it's called, closed. And Roger's been to over 300 Black-owned restaurants right across this country, so he knows what time it is. So that is crazy. So, gentlemen, as always, before we go to break, I want to say, what is a win that you've had? So, Mr. Juice Man, give us a win you've had since we saw you last week.
I finally got myself a new phone.
Woo!
So, I can be bossy again, the bossy car, so then I can get the bossy phone, and I have a bossy iPad now. So there
you go.
It's some things that I've been saving up for, and all the other sort of stuff. So finally, that's a win for me. The challenge has been to authenticate myself on the new devices. And, I'll just let you know, hey, just when you get a new device, automatically assume that for everything that you need to authenticate, you're going to be needing about an hour to hour and a half to call customer service or whatever.
Is that Apple?
Yes, it is.
Well, I'm still going and this has been around for a long time. My Android phone, for me, as long as the phone can make and receive calls and do basic data, I'm good. I'm good. I've never owned an iPhone.
Oh, really?
I have never owned Now, the funny thing is, it took me a while because I'm going, all these people talk about Apple this, Apple that now. And I do have an iPad. I use it periodically. I don't I'm not jailed to, but I do use an iMac, and definitely using an iMac, I get it and I really appreciate it. But I go between Windows and Mac, all that stuff. So new phone. Yeah, and I don't even want to know how much you paid for it. So that's another conversation.
Mortgage.
Not
even mortgage. Mortgage. Not even that, but the reason why I did Apple in the first place is because when my first two children were very, very young, and they would go away to Florida and that sort of stuff, and they wanted to keep in touch with daddy, they had an iPod Touch, which allowed them to make phone calls. We're going
back now.
Yes. And back then I had a BlackBerry. So when my contract was expiring, I decided to go over to iPhone, and I've been iPhone ever since. And that's one of the reasons why I had it.
This is so ironic because I spoke with a longtime friend about 2 or 3 hours ago, and she said she had to switch phones and she misses her BlackBerry.
We all do.
BlackBerry, it's too bad because that was the phone, man. That was it. That was it.
I missed my Sky pager, guys. I had a big nutty pager like this. I used to walk around high school mostly like anything. Big pager on my hip. Not the nice
when Juice, I don't see too many times Juice Man cover his face in laughter, but I wish I could have got a screen.
You know what? I was waiting for the man to say, "Yo, I missed my StarTAC or something," but
no.
Well, this afternoon, myself and Juice and we're talking about Admiral televisions. We don't even want to go there. All right.
Yeah.
You don't want to go there. So Kofi Sadat, what's a win you've had in the last week?
Listen, I got 2 wins. The first win is I survived the January cold. I'm gonna give myself that. This is a brutal January.
I didn't know if when I got up this morning I had to say, is it really February?
Yeah. But it was nice. It was nice. And I think in the spirit of Black history, it was nice. And then the second win is when I went to the restaurant today. I saw a friend, like a good friend I haven't seen in a while, man. So big up Professor Chris Williams.
Oh, wow.
My deep bro, man. From way back in the day when I used to hang out at York at Yubsa and all that. So I haven't seen my bro in a while. But it was just great. We sat down, just had some good conversation randomly. Nice. He showed up to the restaurant to return something. But it was just we just sat down for a good 30 minutes, so
nice.
Never know. So I'm gonna give thanks to good old friends, and it's a win to still be here and still, have things to talk about. So So what about yourself, Dr. Vibe?
I was out this week and I had a conversation with someone who I can really bounce things off of, and they can give me clarity. And it was just so nice. And I hadn't seen them been with them or communicate with them for a while. It was just good to spend that time. And we were only supposed to get together for a little bit of time, but we overextended, and it was so good to get this clarity. And now it's time for me to take the next step. So I'm just at the final post on, okay, which direction am I going to go with this? But that clarity I got and being able to just sit and bounce those ideas off and back and forth. And it just that clarity was really good. And you know what? And I celebrate weekly. I'm blessed to have on a regular basis now, and it's been a while that I've had it with, I'll mention his name, Roger Dunn, that's the regular, but it's good to see that myself and Juice Man are contacting each other on a regular basis. So we've done it on and off in the past, but I want to be really intentional now and to not let go of this time. So I really appreciate it, and supporting him on the show this morning on 98.7. I was listening to it, even though but I said, we won't go there. But it was just really, really good feeling, because I'm feeling in this Oh, look at this. More Job says they still sell pagers nowadays.
Listen, don't let me know that, bro. I'm gonna throw away his phone and go back to my pager.
More Jobs. I want to shout you out, by the way, because you have not only appeared on this platform, but even on when I'm doing the Morning Vibe, you contribute. So hail up, and if you ever want to come on the Sunday, the mic is open. The mic is open, 100%. All right, we're gonna go to a break, and when we come back from break, we're gonna do some quick housekeeping. Then we got we were going to do part 2 of the conversation about the documentary Missing Black Boys from CBC Fifth Estate, but we were given some suggestion to go in a different direction in regards to that conversation. So we'll be back in just a moment, and when we come back, we'll get to it. And as always, please chime in if you have any comments, questions, because we can't do it without y'all. So we'll be back in 15 seconds.
You are watching Black Men Can Talk with Dr. Vibe, Kofi Sadat, and Kofi Morris. It's a show where Black Canadian men come together to have real, unfiltered conversations about life, culture, and community.
All right. Black Men Can Talk. All right, let's make it happen. Subscribe to the Dr. Vibe Show on YouTube and hit the notification button. Also like the Dr. Vibe Show on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky, and Substack. You want to advertise your business, product, or service on any of the platforms that I'm a part of, email me, dr.vibe at the drvibeshow.com. And if you got a question or take, certainly you can put it in the comments, whatever platform you're watching live, but we would love you to call in. So go to your favorite digital device and whatever browser you use, put callme.rode.com, and then go to the next screen, put in the code FSPL8L, and put your name in, and we're ready to rock and roll. As I mentioned last week, we were doing a conversation about the CBC Fifth Estate documentary about missing Black boys. And during the week, Paul shared a conversation he had by a gentleman. We won't give his name because, and he said, you know what? We need to celebrate how the many Black men out there supporting Black boys and inspiring ways that Black men set up. So this is a foundation of our conversation, our show, celebrating Black men. So that is what we're going to be doing today during the conversation. And More Job says, I heard Juiceman on the radio today as well. That 1% piece the dear doctor talked about was wild. And Sister Goy says, I just watched it last week. Good to have you here. Good to have you here. All right, so let's get back. I'm going to put a conversation piece out to all of us and maybe even some of the people in the audience. So first conversation piece. When you hear the phrase Black men supporting Black boys, what does it mean to you personally?
I'll let my elder Juice go first. Go ahead, Joe.
I've always had the support of my elders, but the one thing I never had was the support of my father. And I would have traded all the men that I knew for the support of my dad. Now that I am a father and have 2 sons, but my younger son is 13. I see how important it is for fathers to be there for their children, especially their young men, as well as I get this warm feeling, like a real community feeling when I see Black men talk to young black boys and it doesn't even have to be in a formal aspect. It can be just be like, boss, pull up your pants. Boss, tie your shoe. Hey, you hungry? Come, let's go get some food. Little things like that. Just little nuggets. You don't have to sit there and lecture, but just they know you're there. You know what I mean? And they know that you see them and they see you.
Yeah. Agreed. for me, I would say I love where you're going, because I think it's the informality of it. I think a lot of times when we think about black men supporting black boys, we're thinking about just programming, or um, some reluctance because, again, I don't have everything together. I'm not perfect and whatnot. And I was just reflecting with somebody this week around when we were younger, how you had, let's say, the men them on the block, the older men them on the block, or what I mean, and there was always a sense of care and protection. So if they saw you slipping, like you're cutting class, or they don't know where's the PA there or not, but like, what are you doing around here? You should be in school. You know what I mean? And I think that that sense of protection, even if, let's say, there was a contradiction in some of the actions that they were doing, they were always looking out for you to make sure that you weren't also walking that path, right? And for me, that support started early. You know what I mean? Like I said, within my own family, I should say, I've had, or I have, I'm the youngest of 8, the youngest of 6 boys. So I've always had that sense of protection at home. I'm always the youngest, but then when I was on road, I had many other older brothers, and then it turned into uncles. You know what I mean? And I'm not talking about biological, I'm talking about community based. So I think that whole support piece really is a critical role in our rites of passage of as black men. But on the other side of it, nowadays, I think, for various reasons, we don't see enough of that. That enough of, like, pull your pants up, but said with love and not disrespect. You know what I mean? Or, yo, Reg, tuck your shirt in. How is it? Or, you shouldn't probably use that language, but it has to be said with love, and and do that. So yeah, but the support, I think, is just something that we naturally do when we're in tune with who we are and our natural ways. But yeah.
Yeah, you touched a little bit lightly on who showed up with you for you when you were a boy. How has that showing up when you were a boy shaped you as a black man you are today?
Wow. For me, I would just say this, that I had a wealth of black men around me because my mother is one of 13 children. So I had a bunch of uncles.
Yeah.
So, and they were all into something different. So my uncle Dennis, he's the gadget man, right? Like, he would take apart radios and put them back together again when he was in Jamaica. I owe everything I know about the inside of Jamaica studios and being around music and reggae music to my uncle Earl, aka George, right? That his real name is George.
Yeah.
And I always say to my uncle Ken, known as real name Stanley, that if it were not for him, I wouldn't know what a turntable is. I wouldn't have the love for that, because from 2 years old, he would put me, on his lap and put 45s on that old gramophone, one piece, flip open the front wood turntable thing that we had in the house, and all that other sort of stuff. So I had some great men in the family. And then at church, there was my Uncle Charlie and all the men at church that were there for us growing up. And even though he's not a black man, which was really fun. When I think about it now, I'm like, wow, this kind of interesting. But imagine a big Ukrainian man walking with this little black kid, back in the early 70s, and that was my Uncle John. Just taking me around, when everybody else was busy, and that sort of stuff. So I love that I had a lot of people around. But as I got older and they got their own children, I then experienced the loneliness and the loss of not really having, you know, those individuals around. But again, by the grace of God, my barber actually stepped up. Believe it or not, my barber is the first person in my life to ever call me his son. That was the first man to ever say to me, "That's my son." To my ears was my barber. And to wherever you are, Mr. Lloyd Bookall of Bookie's Barbers, you know, on Oakwood, you know, still, his name came up today, and I was like, "What happened to Bookie? I can't find him." Right? I'm looking for him just to say thank you.
Yeah, yeah. That's beautiful, man. That's beautiful. I would say again, you know, similar to yourself, I had some uncles that really stepped up. You know, I mean, 'cause I have a lot of men in my family, but I had some uncles. I would say like my uncle Ezra. What I remember, he used to take us to Maple Leaf Gardens to watch wrestling. Right?
You too?
And
No.
bro, listen, wrestling was the thing. I'm telling people who don't know, back in the day, we're dating ourselves. Socially, like all types of people, all types of demographics. You know what I mean?
What was your first match? What was the first match you ever saw?
Oh man, I don't even remember. Ric Flair probably versus Ricky Steamboat.
Ricky Steamboat's still my favorite wrestler of all time. Man.
There you go, Jimmy Fly.
We
going down.
The dragon,
the dragon, right?
Ricky the Dragon Steamboat.
I say that because in hindsight, like when I look back, he took a whole bunch of us, right? And he himself didn't have any children here. His children were in Jamaica, right? Mm-hmm. And it just, when I say it shaped me, because now with the work that I do, you know, and I try to, you know, not try, but I work with young Black boys. I share other folks who are mentoring them, other Black men. So that really shaped maybe even the work and the approach without even thinking about it. It's just like a natural thing. Like, hey, Uncle Ezra's coming to pick you up. Even when your parents couldn't come, he's going to drag a bunch of us down there. And funny enough, I pass that love for wrestling to my children. They love it. My youngest, trust me, my youngest, oh man, he's all over it. That's one of my things I need. You got it. That's one of my things I need to do is I need to take him and his friends to
oh my.
So, but you know, again, it just shapes you and you don't even think about it. But yeah, the whole piece around the community uncle. And again, he was taking my young white friends, my young Black friends, whoever could come along. He's like, yo, I'm taking them down to wrestling. Right? So stepping out and doing that work, you know, I'm sure it has impacted who I am today as a father, of course, as an uncle as well, but really as somebody who, you know, sees the need to work with our young Black men and just young men in general and give them opportunities that maybe they wouldn't otherwise have in regards to bringing them to places and spaces. And rest in peace, Maple Leaf Garden, because a lot of good memories there, you know, a lot of good memories.
Well, it looks like you guys have fired up the wrestling community here. But More Jobs says, you know, it amazes me how COVID came and has left us out the door, yet racism still permeates the fabric. He also says, to answer your question, Dr. about mentorship and the consistency of it. That's what it means in regards to our first question. We've got some more stuff happening here. Ryan Knight's in the house. He says wrestling in the 90s was the truth.
Our truth. There you go. Our truth.
There you go. And More Job says WWF Bad News Brown. Get over Geez, some peace.
This man's going back. We said Bad News Brown. You're going way back.
Angela Moscow, you break my cup for my run. I could do it on your American people.
This is it. This is it. Russia #1. Yo, you know that.
The Iron Sheik was incredible. The way his cameos were always just priceless. Stereotypical a little bit, but priceless.
Yeah.
All right, let's go. And thanks for the audience for chiming in as we continue on. Let me ask both of you, can you share a specific moment when you realize, quote, I need to step up for our boys? What triggered that?
I don't, for me, I'll answer. I don't know if there was a particular moment, but there was a realization that a lot of my children's peers, young black boys, didn't have um, you know, fathers in the homes or recognizable that I saw black men in their lives. So it was always just one of those things that we're just, gonna take a bunch of people, a bunch of young black boys, and whatever experiences of support, even hanging out at the house, whatever the case is. I recognized that there was a need, to kind of step up, just to have that presence. That for a lot of them that I found was there was this struggle with the mothers, in the sense where when they started moving into, like, the 12 to 13, there was like a little bit of pushback, because you want to exert yourself as a man, which is part of your rites of passage, but exert yourself. But then mom is like not understanding, right? And it's not anything else. Or specifically, as I speak to my wife about it, when it came down to wrestling, she wasn't about that. She didn't want to get on the floor and wrestle and do a DDT, right? And sometimes like, no, I don't want to do that. Go wrestle with your father, right? So other, young men were like, yo, we'll wrestle. You know what I'm saying? We'll do that thing. So I saw the need, again, when my sons were like 12, 13, moving into that age of, like, closer to, adolescence, right? So that really was a time that I saw. So not a moment, but just an era. I could kind of definitely see there was a shift around that piece. So yeah.
Okay. Juice Man.
It's gonna sound really weird, but my older sister had a baby when I was about 6, and she had to go back into the hospital. So we all went by her house down in Thorncliffe and basically took care of her firstborn. And that was as early as 6. And the baby bug kind of stuck, because I wanted to be a godparent after that. I wanted to be a big brother. I wanted to, and literally I became a big brother, like big brothers of Canada type of thing. Co-chair of that. For Bowl for Kids' Sake in the early 2000s. I have 18 godkids, and I did not stutter. I have 18 godchildren. I've been a mentor forever to young boys and young girls, but as a cousin, we were always made to take care of our younger ones. Our cousins, I don't know about anybody else's family, but in my family, your cousins were your best friends.
Yeah.
And I always say this, the saying, family over everything. So I'm about 10 years older than the majority of my cousins. Like, let's say, I have some that are 6 years younger, 7 years younger, but generally the majority of them are 10 years younger. And now, I mean, 10 years younger is nothing. But when you're a kid, it's a huge difference. So everybody's upstairs, playing dominoes or cards or whatever the case would be, or out in the backyard doing something, whatever. So we're downstairs, in the rec room, with the AFX racing track and the GI Joe with the Kung Fu grip and the stretch Armstrongs and all the other sort of stuff, and then playing the 45s. By then I had 2 turntables, so they're all downstairs having fun, and we were just just horsing around. But it was really young. Like, I think when you come from a big family, it's nobody has to tell you to take care of your young ones. You just know instinctively that's your job. And it's not like now where my son is like, leaves the empty juice container in the sink, and is like the juice is gonna magically make itself, right? Like, that was your job. You had to make juice, like Tang. You had to, this much water, this thing, and then whatever. Like, I saw the other day that they're gonna get rid of frozen orange juice. I'm like, that was a trauma response, because I'm thinking about all the times in my life I had to warm up that the little container thing. So so the orange juice would come out. Like,
Yes, yes.
that was my job. Like, what are you taking away my job for? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
But again, those are just memories.
Yeah, so it's interesting that you're mentioning about the whole cousin thing, because I always see, like, in terms of comedy and jokes, where they say white people don't have cousins, right? And black people have cousins, because it's such a thing where whether they're blood related or whatever, right? The whole dynamic of
If you sit
cousins,
down at the table,
yeah,
your family.
yeah,
Period.
your
If you
cousins
play
are like
dead,
your brothers and
family.
sisters. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
In our cultural kind of representation. So when you say cousins, the older ones, yeah, that was it, man. It was just a natural thing that they would, they take care of you, or or you take care of the youngers, right? And if anything happened, there was a sense of responsibility that who broke the thing, what's the pitting it up, like you know what I mean? Like, you had that sense of responsibility and connection, right? So that's dope.
Yeah. And
Very
if they're
cool.
15 years older, than you, or a little bit, you became uncle. You guys were no longer cousins no more. You're uncle this or auntie that.
Yeah.
Good stuff. So I'm going to put up something here for our audience, and I have a question for you. We have a question for you, whether you're watching this live or on replay. Finish this sentence. Black boys need more blank. That's just for the audience. It's not for our panel here. So and I've put that in the comment section of all the places you're watching this live or on the replay. So let me bring up another conversation piece for the gentleman. In your view, what's the difference between being a mentor, being a father, and being a role model for Black boys?
I think I'll answer. I think they can. Here's the funny. I think they all can be the same, but I think the difference, I would say, in my case in particular, is the different moments and the different environments, right? So, for example, I do like I mentioned, I do a rites of passage process in community, and my son is part of the group, right? So in those times, right, I've got to separate being a dad from being a mentor, because I don't want to get on him harder because I know what I know, or I don't want to give him a favor because he's my child. So in those particular roles, like I choose more to be a mentor, and to be kind of a role model. And I think again, I think there can be differences. A mentor is somebody really that you're kind of showing somebody the ropes and kind of guiding them, and sometimes it's very specific, like, say, it could be an area that they want to get into, area of interest. So you could be a mentor, you can mentor folks. Of course, being a father, it doesn't have to be biological, right? You can play the father role, as we come from a culture of many fathers, and I've got many fathers that I'm appreciative in my life, not just my biological. And then, being a role model, I think, I'm almost of the Charles Barkley, mentality about criticizing role model. I'm more into modeling than being a role model, because I think a role model, often the challenge with that is that people don't feel like you're fallible. Like, you can't make mistakes. Like, you got to come out to be a role model. You got to be perfect, right? So, but I think modeling behavior, and that behavior sometimes is good, sometimes the behavior is challenging, and sometimes you got to show your failure as much as you show your success when you're modeling, because otherwise it's not believable, right? It doesn't connect with folks, because it's all good all the time. So that's my long explanation, but that's kind of how I would break it down.
Juice?
Being a mentor for me is getting that person to the finish line, or helping them get to that finish line of whatever task they want. So, one person wants to do, let's say, broadcast journalism. You try to steer them in the right path. Hey, do this. This is kind of what I did. So you lead from I. Being a father is like, for the same type of thing, would be like, you really want to do that? Like, Why? Like, no, man. Like, you need to. There's more of a. There's more of a looking at what your child can do and
Mm.
put them in areas to succeed. And even if they're not good at something, you try to encourage them to practice to improve on whatever skill that is, not just steer them in one path, but in many different sort of things. Um, Role model, and I don't like to use the term role model. I think we look at different aspects of what people do. Like there's certain things that I do that people like, and there's certain things that I do that people don't like. And I
Mhm.
say that I'm a role model for both. If you see something in me that you just can't stand, well then, don't do that. Be like, Jonathan does that. I don't like when he does that. So I'm gonna steer away from that. But I saw him do that, and I don't want that for me. But he does this really good, so I'm gonna gravitate to learn from that. So you can kind of learn from the both aspects of the yin and the yang.
Yeah.
And I think when we use that approach to a role model, we can look at to me sometimes in life, because I saw somebody do something and get in trouble for it, I was like, no, no, that was my role model. That was my role model to say, don't do something. And then I saw something over here that somebody did and they were great at it. I'm like, okay, yeah, I want to do that.
Yeah. 100.
Love that. Pierre Dubois on LinkedIn. And Pierre, long time no chat. Hope you're doing fine. Says a role model does not have to be perfect. They can teach when falling short comes up and how to best address that misstep. And then Cinema Cadella, who's usually chiming in on Primetime Saturdays with Isha and Lala. Good to have you here as always. So good to have people on, and keep on sending in the comments and questions. So another question for our gentleman. How do you balance teaching discipline and accountability with offering grace and understanding, especially given the stereotypes Black boys face?
I'll go to that one first.
Go ahead.
Any person who I encounter, I say the same thing. My job is to make you better. And I'm going to do it my way. It may not be the right way all the time. You may not see what I'm doing, but make sure you trust the process.
Mhm.
So I tell people this, I'm not a yeller. I'm not a screamer. I'm not a person who will embarrass you,
Mhm.
but I will make you better than how you are. And if there's something you don't know how to do, just say, show me, and I will do my best to show you how to do it. But there is going to come a time where I'm not going to teach you what to do. I'm going to teach you the scheme in which you need to get it done. So I kind of have more of like a football coach's mentality when it comes to young boys,
Yeah.
where it's all about practice makes improvement, not practice makes perfect. And I always say to all my interns or people that are around me, I will take what you can do and make you better. I really don't care what you can't do. I really don't, like, you know what I mean? If like I don't really care what you can't do or what you're not interested in. Maybe through the process you'll have you'll get better at it. But I always look at somebody who has skills and I see what the ball of possibilities can be with them and try to foster that. Like there's some people who they're just shy and they can do so many things in the quiet, but they're just shy. They don't want to do it for a million people and they never probably will. But sometimes you just, I don't think they see what we see in them. So encouragement is very, very big all the time. But I'm not a participation trophy dude either. Like I'm not going to give you something just because you participated. You know, I will tell kids, I said, listen, do you feel what an L feels like? Do you feel the loss? You lost that game. You lost out on that thing. And I want you to remember this day, because this is what this feels like. But when you become a champion, when you win, I well want you to celebrate that. And when you do win, I'm going to be there cheering you on, saying, you know, that's my son, that's my boy. You know what I mean? That's my group. Because I want you to understand what winning feels like and achieving little goals. Like if you could only do 1 push-up, now you can do 10, right? You couldn't crab scratch. Now you can crab scratch. Now you can transform a scratch. Now you can, go behind a microphone. Now you know how to tie a tie. Those are all little wins for, once you've completed it. But that was a big thing. Like for those who have children, they remember. And I mean, I know Sadat remembers this.
Yeah.
When your kids could tie their shoes, oh my gosh. Oh my God. What?
Woohoo!
It was like, woohoo. But then you kind of felt for a minute like they don't need me for that no more.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's this win feeling, and then there's a loss feeling as well too, when your children or the children that you're helping out get to the next level, because you no longer have to help them with that thing. They become more and more independent. And birds are supposed to fly. That's what they're supposed to do.
That's it. I would say, I always tell people, love is discipline and discipline is love. And we get it mixed up sometimes. We think that if we have to correct our children, right, our young boys, that we're not exuding love for them, right? But we got to do it in a loving way, of course. And I think often what I've found when it comes to discipline and accountability, that the young people that I've worked with or I've encountered just in general, they actually seek that level of discipline and accountability. And why I say that is that sometimes the other side of that is that nobody cares. Nobody cares if I step out and do the bad thing. Nobody cares if I don't go to school. Nobody cares, if I'm not working. Nobody cares if I'm depressed and I'm going to bun weed all day. Right? Because often we're looking at that and saying that. But when you actually step in and say, yo, bro, you really shouldn't be doing that thing. Here's the consequences of that. Right? Let me give you an alternative. Right? There's that. And then accountability. It's a huge thing, because we do a disservice to our young men when we don't let them know there's accountability for their actions, because they're getting, they're doing things in this, let's say, safe matrix. But outside of us, they go on the road or they're with other people and they do certain things and they're not accountable, or they don't feel they have to be accountable. So a lot of times when people get themselves in trouble, right? And then the other side of, again, the grace and understanding has to do with, I would say, as somebody who has a lived experience, as I was once a boy, of course, but someone who has a lived experience, you give that grace and understanding, because, when I was young, I understand what you're thinking about. I know exactly where you're going to. We say, I know when you start smelling yourself and you're trying to do other things, you know what I mean? We understand that. So we give that grace and understanding. Or you recognize sometimes people are coming from a very challenging situation. And I could see why they would want to be moving in this direction. Or they have influences that can be negative. And you're like, okay, I get it. Yeah, man. I know your older brother used to do that, or the man, or sometimes it's positive, and you push them into that. You know what I mean? So I think there's that piece. And the part around this, and again, giving grace around the stereotypes, one of the most critical life questions we ask in the rights process, especially for young Black people and young people, is, am I really who I think I am? And we ask that question because there's so much, so many other people, so many other things that are telling you this is what a young Black boy is, right? So you gotta, whatever negative stereotype they have out there, this is what it is. And I think one of the greatest challenges for our young Black men is to step out of that box. Okay, I don't want to be a basketball player for life. I don't want to be a rapper, right? Or whatever limited box. The hardest thing is to step out that box and say, bro, you know what? I think I want to make video games for life, right? Or I think I want to do whatever else. And I think I constantly push against the limits of the box, right? And as somebody who has, three, sons, the boxes are always there that people are pushing at them. And I recognize that very early to step into school. I'm like, no, 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 no. Yeah, he may like playing basketball. Doesn't mean, he doesn't want to study this or he has an affinity to do that, right? So those boxes and that stereotype is often sometimes the most challenging things is to, even allow them or give them an opportunity to look outside that box and say, hey, you know what? Oh, there's some other things I might want to get into. So yeah, it's kind of a mixed bag between the discipline, the accountability, the grace and understanding. But I always say that, like, I think, we do a disservice to our young men when we don't want to exude some discipline and accountability, especially in a world that's not always, good to them.
Okay. Let's go to this conversation piece. What does it look like in your experience when Black men openly love, affirm, and uplift each other and the boys watching them?
It's huge to show love to everybody. Like one of the things, and I can say this about myself and Dr. Vibe. And maybe it's a Scarborough thing because guys in the West End don't do this, or they didn't do this when.
We'll take it. We'll take it, my guy. We'll
okay.
take it.
I'll give you guys in the East the prop. Like I remember one New Year's Eve, I noticed that all these guys in Scarborough were just hugging one another. Like when they saw each other, just giving each man a hug and stuff. And I mean, guys in the West are more like, hey, bounce, whatever the case may be. But guys were like fully hugging. And I remember Dr. Vibe, like he saw me, he's like, "No, man, give me a hug." And in the beginning, it felt very uncomfortable because I wasn't used to it. Yeah. And then I joined the Lions Circle, and guys were hugging. And I remember when I went through my LPI when we call it graduation, and I had never hugged that many dudes in my life. But Christmas time, my son, I think he was maybe about 2 or 3 at the time, but he got to see for the first hand all these men just hugging. And there's not a day that goes by when he gets in the car, the first thing we do is hug. And I mean like some like the way you would hug like your dog, like, come here, whatever. And I do it in front of his friends. And normally when you do stuff like that in front of like the friends be like, "Oh, what's going on here?" But I show him so much love. Like he comes over, gives me a hug. I could be on a live and he's here and he'll bring me a drink or something like that. And he'll kiss me and hug me. And to reinforce that love element, it is so very important that we show love and that men don't have the problem of saying, "I love you," and giving a man flowers while they're alive. You know what I mean? Like I remember in the summertime of this year when they were doing Black Men's Health Month, Mental Health Month. And I saw a statistic that really, like, I started crying. And it was that 83% of all men in the world, the first time they got flowers was when they were dead.
Damn.
And I sat, and I mean, and I was on my way to the garden center because I love to garden. And I'm thinking, I receive flowers. I've gotten flowers all the time. But I'm thinking, how many brethren do I know who have never receive flowers. And
True.
that day, I went and I got a couple of plants for the people who meant a lot to me. I gave one to my barber. I said, you know what? Hey, hold this. Gave one to another person. Said, hold this, and just to say, you know, hey, I'm really giving you flowers.
Yeah.
I mean, whether or not you want them or not, that's up to you. But I'm giving you your flowers.
Yeah.
Because I'm not buying a bouquet when you're dead. You can't smell them, you can't see them, can't touch them. All of the above.
True, true. I was interesting enough. I was starting to say what it does is it gives them permission. It unlocks the whole piece around. I can actually express love genuinely to my brother, and I think by us modeling that behavior, it unlocks and gives them permission. I'm just thinking. Last night I was at a family dinner, and my niece's friend came over, and she had a son, maybe about 1, 2 years old, maybe. I'm probably maybe 2 years old. And before he left, he hugged every person in the room. Now, I had never met this young person before. Yesterday was the first time. He gave me a warm hug and everybody a warm hug. And this makes me think in the moment, what happens between then and when we become, these gray bearded people as Black men. Right, we lose our permission, and it's too cool, and all the negatives that go to it. But I'm like, we need to look sometimes at those babies because they can show us, this is the way. So I think that we continue, to show love genuinely. And I'll say my own personal challenge is within my family. I would say, typical Jamaican, Caribbean father, man. Then they're not really much about, the hugs and I loves you and all that kind of stuff. So I didn't really see that behavior modeled in that particular way. But as I've gotten older, I recognize every time, I'm saying goodbye to my brothers, they always say I love you. And I noticed it and I was like, bro, I gotta say that back to them. So I've made it a practice to make sure that I'm saying it back to them and that my children are around and they, we're around, they're hearing that, because I think it's important. It unlocks and says, dad, uncle, whoever else can say I love you or a hug or whatever, then I can do it myself too. I don't have to hold that back when I feel I need to do it. Right. So the permission.
Good
If
stuff.
I could jump in on there, I lost my dad back in 2023, like right around Christmas time. And there was such a finality in his passing. Not in the aspect of, boohoo tears or anything like that, but there was that I've reached this old, and there's certain things I knew my father was never going to do certain things. My father was never going to tell me I love you.
Mm.
My father was never going to praise me for anything I ever did in life. I knew that wasn't going to happen. But when he passed, there was that it's never going to happen. I always held out hope. I remember you wait your whole life for certain things to happen. And I remember going by my dad's house, and he had this lemon tree that he would keep outside for, to get sunlight and then bring it inside. And this thing is monstrous now. You know what I mean? Like, I'm pricking myself bringing this thing in, and I want to cuss every time I would bring it inside.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember I brought it inside, and he hadn't seen me for a minute, and he's like, Jonathan, give me a hug. And I was like, me? You want what? You want a hug? And I was scared. I was really scared. Like, I gave him a hug, but I got scared. I was like, are you okay? Is something wrong? Like what's happening? You sick? Like literally, like I was like I had to call people. Like, I literally called people, and I was like, yo, what does it mean when your dad is like in his 80s and he wants to get, and he asks for a hug?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, it was so strange because I'd waited my whole life for this to happen, for him
Yeah.
to initiate it, and finally he did it. So it even re-emphasized how important getting a hug and giving a hug to my children, and always, giving them the words of affirmation, I love you, is so important for, our children, our young boys, our young girls to hear.
True.
Like
True.
that.
That's
So
beautiful.
Pierre says, I really love Kofi's insight about recognizing when young men practice their skills privately. A relatively safe space lets people focus on what they need to learn.
Sure.
Good. That's good. That's good. We're running down on time, so let's see if we can squeeze some quick things in. Okay, because I value especially Kofi's time, because he jumps off real quick. So I'm gonna make sure I do some rapid stuff. Okay. So for both you, imagine a black boy is watching this right now and feels unseen or discouraged. What would you say directly to him?
Wow, it's a lot. I mean, of course, we have to know the situation, but my first thing I always say is to find a tribe, find a like tribe. I mean, again, I always say we're never made to do this thing called life alone. So if you can find somebody in your immediate circle, that one person to start with, to talk to connect with, to share what you're feeling. That'd be my first thing I would say, and again, I don't know the extent of,
Right. It's a general question. Yeah.
right. Yeah. But I would definitely say to find a tribe. And I think it's so necessary that we need to move away from this whole thing of the definition of a man is to, take it all on yourself. I think it undoes us too much. So I would say, try to find somebody. Could be a good friend, could be an uncle, could be a mentor, could be a brethren and on the block, or whatever the case is, right? But share that, share how you're feeling and why you're feeling that way, right? And I think that's a place to start, at least.
Juice Man.
As a kid who felt the same way growing up, I see you. And I was that kid who never fit in with anybody. I wasn't, I didn't like what everybody else liked. I didn't do what everybody else did. Most of my family, were born in Jamaica. I was born here. So automatically I was not like them. You know what I mean? Like, so, and they let me know it, oh, you're not real Jamaican, you're this and whatever. And so you felt like that. And then I grew up in an area at that time where it was very white. So you don't fit in.
Mm-hmm.
And it literally wasn't until I was like 16 years old and got a job down at the Eaton Center where I actually found people who looked like me, liked music like me, liked the things that I liked, started doing different things, and got a car. Then I could drive different places. I could come down to Scarborough, and then hey, there's more people who do the things I do, and DJ and whatever. And then you start to find yourself. So don't be all that in a hurry to know what you're about and to have a whole bunch of friends when you're young.
Yeah.
Do a whole bunch of different things, because the worst thing you do is peak at grade 6. Like, that's your best time in your life. 6, you're grade 6. That's it. There's nothing after that for you.
Yeah.
Keep peaking, keep reinventing yourself as you get older. Try different things, try different, whatever it may be. Just keep trying, keep doing different things, and peak when you're like 70 or something like that. You know what I mean? But
straight up,
look at Prince. Prince has done so many different types of things over his lifetime, different hairstyles, different whatever. He's not been the one trick pony that we've seen with certain people. Right. He's done many different things. So keep reinventing yourself. But the number one thing is, by the factor that you were born on this planet, you are special. And we see you. And it's only a matter of time before the people who you want to see you, And even if they don't see you, go somewhere else where they celebrate you. You know what I mean? Don't stay where you're tolerated. Go to where you're celebrated. Trust me, you'll make a lot more money. You'll have a lot more fun and have a lot more, just seriously. I speak from experience. Just, you know what I mean? In this arena, you ain't nothing. Over here, you're a superstar. Stay over there.
Yeah.
Kofi, do we have time for one more? Because I know you usually
Go ahead, bro. It's all good.
This is a good one here. If you could rewrite the dominant narrative about Black boys, what 3 truths would you want the world to believe about them?
Well, I would say one thing, Black boys, they're magical. I would say they're magical. You know what I mean? And when I say they're magical, it's like when you see that joy, that genius in them, they're magical. If you sit back and you observe, when Black boys connect, I'm talking, in a good way, and you just see that it's a magical thing. I think they have the power to really shift and change a lot of things. I'd say it's one thing. So they're magical. They care. I think a lot of people don't think that they care, right? And we got this whole stereotype with YNs and whatever the case is, but they care and they hear, right? I think there's a lot of things that we talk about Black boys, we put on Black boys, we don't believe that they care about school or the way that they dress or how they're seen. They actually do care, right? And it impacts them because they're hearing it all the time, right? So so I think those are 2 things I would say. And as I say that, my son opens up the door. Yes, hello, Black boy. They want to be seen. You know what I mean? And it might sound corny, but I would say that they love. You know what I mean? They love, right? Like we don't see that. We only see stereotypes of everything that it's always about hate and violence, right? But they love and they need to be loved, right? So I'll leave those as my pieces.
Juice Man.
Number 1, let them lead from a young age. They have wisdom. They have intelligence. Let them lead. Number 2, do not fear their brawn, fear their intelligence. And the last one is teach them everything you know. My mother did me the best thing in the world by teaching me. Like, she didn't know how to be a man, but she told me, I'm going to teach you what I know so that you never have to depend on these things from a woman. She taught me how to cook. Rug hook, macrame, needlepoint. Man, let me tell you, give me 2 knitting needles and crochet.
All right. We learned something new.
I'll make a hat, no problem. A scarf.
All right.
Wrap that around one time. And teach, and the number 1 thing, she taught me how to sew. I all used to make track pants to go to gym class and stuff like that, and track jackets. You know what I mean? So
love it.
Just teach them. Just keep teaching them.
On that note, gentlemen, that is a wrap. But I want to say thank you for taking the most valuable thing you have as Black men, your time, to hang out with us today, and appreciate it. Kofi Morris couldn't make it with us today, but there's his contact information, getwellstayfit@gmail.com, Instagram, 2 of them, Kofi Coach _, and then Cosmic Wellness Group. Also, there's Facebook, Kofi Coach, Kofi Sadat, nazojam@gmail.com, Instagram, Mooroon, MOOREROO, and still one of the coolest handles on the internet. YouTube, NASA Community, and Facebook, Paul Osbourne. Juice Man, where can people touch base with you?
What you have down there, or hey, if you see me on the road and just say hi, just beat the horn, man. I'll turn around and say, hey, what's up.
So that's JonathanOshaw.com, and then info@JonathanOshaw. And again, it's JON not JOH.
Oh yeah.
We got to make sure.
But
It was.
one thing though, to start off Black History Month, I always forget his birthday and I remember today, so I'm gonna do it on all different platforms. Happy birthday to one of my godsons, Adrian Anderson. Happy birthday. Love you, man. Love you. Love being your
Beautiful.
godfather. I'm so blessed to have you as a godson.
That's a good celebration. We like that. We like that. If you want to touch base with me, the best way, not there. I did it again this week. There we go. This is too much clicking. toplink.cc/the DRVIBESHOW.com. And then, as always, if you want our three plays of this epic conversation, the Dr. Vibe Show on YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn, and the Dr. Vibe Show website, and also Paul Osbourne on Facebook. Okay, we have one more comment here. Cinnamon Canal says, wow, probably says eye-opening conversation. So glad you stepped in, Cinema Canela. All right, and also put some comments, some stuff in the comment section for you watching live on the replay. So there's always engagement offline that you can do with this. But let's finish off with this. Live your life as a dream. If you can dream it, you can make it. Sometimes you have to get small to get stronger. Block assumptions, aim bigger, aim better, aim higher, aim wider. Love, faith, and respect. Don't just manage your time, manage your energy. Remember to give yourself grace. And if you're not making money, make history. Try to do both, sorry, and make it better. And also want to shout out to Althea O'Hara Stephenson, who favorited this on Facebook. Thank you, Althea. God bless. Peace to all. Keep the faith while good. Peace.
Yeah. Sometimes with our parents, they're like, I have nothing to teach you. I don't know nothing. And
My dad's at that point now. It says,
That's my point.
But I'd say, no, Dad, you got lots more to give. You know how cold it is when these two brothers in their yard.
You know that. You know that. You don't know that, bro. You know
No
that.
joke.
I know we all have these things, but you know what? My go-to is this thing.
Wow.
Black book is in the
Black
Black
book.
Men Talk, Black Book.
But now I can. Yeah, this is. Can you do like what about like a chorus?